Mercantilism. Mercantilism is called a set of political ideas or economic ideas that developed during the 16th, 17th, and first half of the 18th century in Europe. It is characterized by strong state intervention in the economy. They tended the state regulation of the economy, the unification of the internal market, the growth of the population, the increase of own production, controlling natural resources and foreign and internal markets, protecting local production from foreign competition, subsidizing private companies and creating privileged monopolies, the imposition of tariffs on foreign productions, and the increase in the money supply. Through the prohibitions of exporting precious metals and inflationary coinage, always with a view to multiplying tax revenues. These actions last had the formation of the nation-state as strong as possible. Mercantilism went into crisis at the end of the 18th century and practically disappeared by the middle of the 19th, before the appearance of the new liberal and physiocratic theories.
Absolute advantage theory. The absolute advantage theory, put forward by Adam Smith, highlights the importance of free trade. Yeah, so that the wealth of nation increases, and that's its objective. In this way, the absolute advantage can be defined as ability of producing a good. Yeah, but it can be in absolutely lower cost measured in terms of work units. Absolute advantage also looks the efficiency of producing a single product. This analysis helps a lot of countries avoid the production of products that will yield little or no demand, and it leading to losses, and we don't want it. And a country's absolute advantage or disadvantage in a particular industry can play an important role. Yeah, and in the types of good it chooses to produce. So if a country have a more experience than another country in some products, the country that has more experiences will have the advantage, absolute advantage.
Comparative advantage. As we all know, the comparative advantage is the ability of the person, company, or country to produce one good using relatively fewer resources than another. This concept is one of the basic foundations of international trade. The comparative advantage model was developed by economist David Ricardo as a response to an improvement of Adam Smith theory. According to the point of view contributed by Ricardo, the countries specialists in the production and export of these goods. These theories say that each country will specialize in what is the most efficient.
And today I'm going to talk about the factor endowment theory. The factor endowment theory holds that countries are likely to be abundant in different types of resources. This theory also says that a country will have a comparative advantage in the good that uses the factor with which it is heavily endowed. When we calculate the comparative advantage, it is essential to remember that it is the percentage of factors that matter. A country could be heavily endowed with both labor and capital, but it proportionally may have more of one than another than would another country. If a country has a comparative advantage in a good that uses the factor with which it is heavily endowed, it should focus its production on that good. But here we have the question, what is a factor endowment? A factor endowment represents how many resources a country has at its disposal to be utilized for manufacturing. Resources such as labor, land, money, and entrepreneurship. Those resources could be really important for a country to increase its economy. Countries with large of diverse factor endowments are typically more wealthy and able to produce more goods than countries with small factor endowments. For example, here in Mexico, it is well known that one of the most exported fruits is avocado. I have a graphic that shows us that in 2008 to 2010, there was like a decrease, but to 2012 to 2014, there has been an increase in the production of avocado in Mexico. A most recently example that I have is that in this year we had the Super Bowl from the NFL, where before years there were exported around 8,000 tons of avocado, but this year in 2020 there were exported around 100,000 tons, which was such as a record for the country. And the 89% of this exportation that were from United States came from Mexico. The majority of the avocado that were exported came from Mexico. So avocado is such as an amazing example that Mexico has such as a market in avocado, and that we are using it, we are taking advantage of it.
Hi, I'm talking about the model Herschel-Olin. This model is based on the 2x2x2 postulate, which means 2 countries, 2 goods, and 2 factors, capital and labor. This model was formulated by the Swedish economist Bertil Olin, modifying a national theorem of his teacher like Herschel, and try to think how do they work, the laws of international trade work. The model starts from the theory of David Ricardo that deals with comparative advantage by starting that countries specialize in the export of goods that require large amounts of the factors of production in which they are comparatively more abundant and that tend to import those goods that use factors of production in which they are steadier. For example, if a country has a large supply of a resource X relative to its supply of other resource, it is considered to be abundant in said resource X. Then a country will tend to produce relative more of the goods that intensively use its abundant resources. In conclusion, countries tend to export goods that tend to get intensive in the factor with which they are abundantly endowed. For me, it is